Right, so I left my house twice this year, which honestly is a bit much. But hey, I'm nothing if not an honorable hermit. So I had to go to Camping Kid Bash after being invited by my friends Tina and Don. At the end of the first day, I pretty much knew I needed to do a video about my thought process when kid bashing from start to finish. Well, the start was handed to me on a silver platter. My friend Conjured Craft asked me to kit bash their wonderful Hill Giant sculpt. It was a joy to paint and you should buy one. Obviously this model needs a head. I'd been reading with Vestarian and that looked amazing, and I saw this picture and thought that contrast between like a mechanical head and an organic body was something I really wanted to play with. These spaceships were sitting untouched on day 2 and they seemed like the ideal thing to make a wacky head out of. In my mind, the middle-sized one was going to be the right fit, but when I tried the very large ship, I kind of fell in love with the silhouette. The verticality is really wonderful. It reminds me of those images of whales sleeping. There's something peaceful here that I really vibe with. The blend was sculpted with putty over a sturdy pin. I originally built kind of weird skin folds into him to keep the logic of the sculpt going. But I switched to a shaggy mane kind of thing that you see on African masks. This Engil mask from the Fong people is a great example of that, but you can see a ton of different versions of the same principle across a bunch of different cultures. I was initially planning to add a couple more spaceships floating around the head, like a kind of like hover crown design that was super popular in sci-fi concept art for the past decade or so, but it ended up muddying the silhouette a bit too much. It would have probably worked with smaller additions though. So let's try this bird. You know what, I kind of fuck with it. And if I'm sticking animals on there, maybe now is the perfect occasion to bust out the Gorgolians from my Cities of Sigmar command box. I also had a miscast of my Sprout sculpt that fit right in, so I just gave it a wizard hat and tossed it into the pile. They'll go live on the base to keep the big boy company, along with other little dudes from the bits box. I recently watched this excellent video by Kidbash Chaos. It showed how he made a demon prints based on the Catacross model for Age of Sigmar. For some reason, with the way he painted it, I really vibed with the bone plate fusing patterns that are in the original sculpt. So I want to try something like that myself. I first started with my new panel line scribing tool. It's a wonderful piece of kit, and just like when you scribe lines on a gunpla or a military kit, you first want to draw your lines applying barely any pressure. And then after a few passes you press a bit more, and that way you make sure to have a path traced and ready for your blade to follow. That's not going to go wild across the surface and into your fingers. I found these wings languishing in the giant bit stub. I immediately thought they'd be the perfect interest spot for the back of the model as well. Also, it's a Guardians of Hecate sculpt and I like her work, so whatever, it's going in. The original intent for this project was to make it giant for my Chaos Army, but the base size meant it had to be something else. The mix of technical and organic bits meant it was a pretty good fit to be a Hell Cannon, which now means it needs a crew, 3 guys on 25mm squares. I think my Sprout is a great first crew member. For the other 2, I wanted to keep the kind of like mechanical to organic contrast, so I grabbed some metal bits I had lying around and stuck them on a couple of bodies. The other thing that our new Hell Cannon needed was a giant ass diorama base. I was browsing the Fogu Models web store, and for some reason the borrow entrances really stuck with me. I like the idea of our model being sort of a graveyard spirit, a big strange thing that likes to hang around tombs. Maybe as a kind of guardian, or maybe because it likes the company of people bringing flowers to the dead. So, burial it was. I ran out of cork to make my mound, but I did thankfully have plenty of pink foam. I cut it into roughly the barrel shape I wanted, and then used my drill to pin the big model all the way through it and through the base. Once the glue had pretty much dried, I covered it in a layer of clay to make the actual surface of the mound and blend in the integrated base of the model. To put more stuff on there, I spent a bit of time decorating with candles and doing my usual basing tricks, which you can see in my basing videos. Well, for the painting I was admittedly a little stuck at first, but then I thought back to the origin of this giant lump of resin. If the head was originally meant to be a spaceship, what if the giant was kind of a star spirit? Dark blue like the night sky and covered in tiny colored dots. You'll see in the outro there's a bit more to that choice of paint job. The head, being metallic in some way, seemed to tie everything together neatly. It's a hell cannon, it's a spaceship, the inspiration from Vestarian and Kid Bash Chaos, it's all in there. I went for a light brass color with a bit of weathering and variation to make it less monotone over such a big model. The gems were painted red because that seemed like the best color contrast with the body of the giant. You should never really be too precious with your bits or your IDs in general. Saving for your perfect masterpiece is honestly kind of pointless. By the time you get to make your perfect vision, you will have grown tired of some of the original IDs, which would have had a beautiful life if you just let them take control. Grab the most incongruous bit from a project that you've worked on for a long time, just cut it and use it right now in something else. I'm an editor by trade, and while it's hard to cut things, sometimes it's for the best. That big future project will be better for it, and same for that shiny new one. I often joke to my friends that IDs come to me in my dreams, but I think my best stuff often comes from a flash of an ID that might as well, be a dream, or an actual thing that I wrote in my dream journal while half asleep. You don't need a dream journal, but writing things down is a great help in my opinion. Bookmark a bunch of stuff, make a folder on your computer, try and draw like a mind map of what inspires your kid bashes like I've been doing in this video, and like David Lynch says, it's a great tragedy to forget a good ID. So write that stuff down, okay? So about a month ago I was at Camping Kid Bash in Belgium, making a bunch of stuff, meeting new friends and putting faces on people who've been supporting my work, like basically from the beginning. I didn't want to be the asshole who turned that very special moment into content, so I didn't shoot a whole lot of footage there. This outro feels super fucking weird because I pretty much wrote it on my flight back, crying the whole time, seeing the lights of Marseille getting closer from my window, like arms spreading to welcome me back home and comfort me. This video is for Taryn, Arjen, Anna, Dallas, Tina, Jens, Ellie, Kai, Helga, and Don, and Tara, and Ryan, and Jack, and Rose, and Ems, and Rebecca, and Ben, and Hannah. I could go on, but it's also kind of for all of those who weren't there, Marcello, Gage, Cameron, Luke, Tanner, Eric, Duane, Ames, Robert, and all the other ones I'm forgetting like some dumbass. Anyway, there's no joke at the end of this one. I'll see you all soon, and I love you.